This is the Festool 36mm hose for its CT range of extractors. The question is it worth the Festool price tag, and does it make a tangible difference in a real world situation? But first, here's a jingle. If you follow my channel for some time, you'll know I was a little bit disappointed on the dust extraction capabilities of the Kapex 120. Don't get me wrong, they're good, but they're not as good as I thought they would be, looking at all the hype around the machine. Now, up till this point, I've been running the Kapex using the hose that came with my CT26, and that's a 27mm hose that's 3.5 meters long, the D27. To be fair to Festool, they do recommend that you need to increase the airflow if you're using the larger machine, and the recommended hose is the 36mm D36 3.5 meter hose. And I've got one now in the workshop, and I want to put it through its paces with the large machines to see whether it's worth the upgrade. The D36 comes in a box, cardboard box, no sustainers to store the hose in, and you can see it's a D36 3.5 meters long ASCT. AS means it's anti-static, so as the dust builds up inside the hose, you don't build up static, which is a safety precaution. 3.5 is obviously 3.5 meters long, and the D36 means it's 36 millimeters. Opening the box, you get, well, the hose. Nothing else, no instructions, no leaflets, nothing, just the hose. And as you can see, it's the new style of hose. It's the one with the smoother exterior on it, and the idea is that it doesn't catch on the end of your MFT or the end of your rails or end of the things that you're working on. So that's pretty good. It comes with the standard adapter on one end that goes directly into any of the CT ranges, and it comes with a larger adapter, the 36mm connector, that goes into the various tools. Here I have, in comparison, the 27mm hose. So you can see that the end cap is the same design, more or less, and it's the same width, but the interior connection is slightly different, with this fitting inside the ports with minimal obstruction, and this one having a nozzle inside that takes the hose that goes inside. So you can see that the actual airflow is restricted on the 27 over the 36 before we even get to the hose length. You can see the difference in the hoses. Obviously 36mm is wider than the 27mm, it goes without saying, and what that means is the internal bore is much wider on this one than on the 27, and in theory that's going to give you an improved airflow. Overall they're the same length, and the next difference is on the bayonet cap at the end. You see the 27mm is much smaller, and the 36mm again is much wider, and no surprises. Now this is where a significant difference does come in. Once this is inserted into the larger machine, it inserts inside the dust collector, and therefore there's always a slight shoulder here that the dust particles and the chips are catching on, as well as it disrupting and lowering the airflow. The larger 36 fits on the outside of the dust collector on the device, and therefore you have a much smoother airflow and nothing to restrict the chips. And we can clearly see that looking at the TS55. The D27, the 27mm hose, fits inside and connects to the dust extractor. So inside you can visualize that shoulder of the connector restricting the airflow and breaking some of the larger chips. The 36mm, the D36, also locks into position, but now it locks on the outside, and again twists to lock, so it makes a secure fitting, and now there's nothing to disrupt the airflow inside. So in theory, the wider hose, the faster airflow and the less of disruption should make a difference. When you come to the smaller tools such as a Domino 500 or the ETS 150 sander, you can see that in this case the 27mm fits on the outside of that hose, so there's no air disruption, and both these tools have phenomenal dust collection, and the same on the sander as well. The 36mm will not fit on those smaller tools. And you can see how loose that actually is on the devices. Now, you can get an adapter that fits on the end of this one, and it steps it down from 36mm to 27mm. So if you get to the point where you think this hose is fantastic and you don't want to be carrying two hoses with you so you can use it on the smaller tools, then the adapter is a really good idea and is a recommendation from Festool of how you use it. So then you can benefit from the increased airflow of the hose, the lack of snagging if you're upgrading from an older type of hose, and the anti-static features, and it will work across the big tools and the small tools. So that's worth considering. So the question is, does it make a difference? So we're going to do two tests. We're going to do one with the TS55, we'll do a cut with a 27mm hose and look for dust, and we'll do a cut with a 36mm hose and look for dust, and we'll just see which one we think is the better. Now bear in mind, I've never had a problem with the dust collection on the TS55, it's always been pretty supreme, so I'm not really expecting much difference in the use on that tool. We'll then do a series of cuts on the Kapex, and we'll do it first of all the 27mm hose, and then repeat those cuts with the 36mm, and again we'll look for the difference in dust. And that's where I really want to see a difference in the dust collection. Let's give it a go. So we'll just test it on this 18mm thick piece of pine. We'll do two cuts with the 27 and have a look, and then we'll do two cuts with the 36 and we'll have a look. I'm using the CT26, it's on maximum suction and it's got a clean airbag inside it. Before I start, I'm going to clean everything down with the Festool brush on the 27mm hose. I've turned this up to a maximum speed of 6. My depth of cut is set for 20mm, which means it's going to cut through the 18mm board. And now we make some cuts. So, not an awful lot of sawdust. There's a little bit collected here, probably, you know, about 15-20 specks of sawdust. There's nothing inside the rail, the wood is clear, but I did notice some shooting off towards the wall at the back there. There's nothing noticeable on the rail, and the tool itself is clean. So I'm actually happy with the 27mm hose on the TS55, and I must admit, in use I've not really looked at the dust collection and thought, ooh, I wish that was better. But let's try the 36mm and see how we get on. Oh, now that was interesting. As I took this off, there was some dust collected inside the dust collector here that's fallen off onto the bench. And if you remember what we said, that this does restrict dust to bang into that, that could well be the reason. So it does look like there's an impact on the 27mm hose with dust collecting inside of this aperture here. Okay, I'm going to clean the bench down again with this brush. And now we'll drop the 36mm hose on. Everything else is the same, just that the hose is bigger. So if anything, that's slightly better. There's still the odd speck of dust here and there, but a lot less. If I can count 4 or 5 now, I'm lucky. And on the other holes we had a higher number. But not significant difference, to be honest with you. It's better, it's a bit cleaner, but it's not significantly super. I still noticed that shooting out the back of the saw onto the wall, there was some shavings, and that looked about the same sort of level. So let's remove the holes and see what's happened inside. Yep, and this time that is completely clear. So yeah, it does improve things. If I was just using the TS55, I'm not sure that this is going to be the world's best upgrade, but it is better. It does make a difference on that airflow. So let's try it on the Kapex and see what we think there. So we'll do the same thing. We're going to clean down the Kapex with the 27mm hose. That's pretty clean of dust, and on the back there we're pretty clean. Machine itself clean. In fact, I can't really see any dust at all on this device. So we'll now do a little bit of a test. I'm going to connect up the 27mm hose first of all. We'll use this material. This is 18mm pine as well, and we'll just do a series of cuts through this, probably about 5 to give it a fighting chance. We'll look at the dust on the 27, then we'll repeat with the 36. So straight away I can see we're collecting dust around here. You can see this. I mean, it's not a lot, so I'm not talking about a big problem here, but hopefully you can sort of see the dust that's beginning to collect around this machine. And it's not a huge amount, and certainly it's not something I'm going to get excited about. And the Kapex is such a good saw anyway that I'm not overly concerned by those specks of dust. But can the 36mm do a better job? I'll clean it down and we'll repeat the exercise. Just to note, once again, as I took this off, there's dust caught inside the Kapex itself, again catching on this shoulder. Let's see what we've got. Still dust collected on this one, but not as much as there was on the other hose. So it's pretty marginal, I think. So yeah, it has improved the dust collection. And there's no dust at all inside the nozzle, and there's no dust left inside the Kapex. So there we have it. The D36, the Festool 36mm hose. Worth the upgrade? Yeah, I guess it is. If you're doing moderate to heavy use of the TS55 or the 75 or the Kapex series or the routing, then yeah, that difference that we saw in dust collection, although it was minimal on the 2 tests that we did, don't forget that was really light duty work, and over the series of a day that's going to build up an awful lot and be quite an impressive difference, I feel. So yeah, it is a worthy upgrade. If you're a light user, you're doing it every now and then, maybe at the weekends, it's not always there happening, then maybe not so much. Stick with the 27. I think that'll give you what you need. Both hoses give you good dust collection, so we are talking about the heavier particles that come off. So the environment in my workshop is always clean. There's no dust floating around inside the air. It's a nice place to be. It feels good when you walk in. So the CT range from Festool with either hose is doing a good job. The difference is that the 36 is giving you better airflow and it's taking more of those heavy debris away, and that saves time on the cleanup. And over the series of a day, that's a big thing, especially if you're on customer sites. So I don't want to be carrying 2 hoses around and storing 2 hoses, so I will be buying the 36 to 27mm adapter, and then I'll be using this on the smaller hand tools as well. I was a bit concerned that this was going to be a bit cumbersome, a bit clunky when I was using it with the tools, but on the TS55 and the router I don't notice the weight difference at all in operations, so I'm quite confident it's going to work well on the smaller tools, the Domino, the Sander, so on and so forth. So I'll be buying the 36 to 27mm adapter, and I'll be using this as my go-to hose. So the final test for me, will it fit into the storage on the CT? So if you've got this hose and you've made the upgrade, let me know what you think. Put some comments underneath so we can all learn from our shared experiences. Nothing more to say. Thanks for watching. See you next time.